Welcome to the show, UAP Truth 33. We're going to get into it today. We're going to dig deep. I got a lot of things I want to talk about. I got a lot of things on my mind. We're just kind of spitball this thing, put it together, see where it goes. Sometimes those are the best shows, man. I'll do scripted ones, and then other times I just, let it flow. And I feel like sometimes when I let it flow, the best content comes out. And so today I just kind of want to talk about the whole UFO phenomenon, right? And the ways that it manifests itself to different people. You have like these experiencers that are actually being taken and like abducted, and apparently, you know, John Mack researched this. He was this Harvard, professor, psychiatrist, and he was investigating this and he was a skeptic. Like he did not believe any of it, right? But he found that the more people that he interviewed from different parts of the world, that their stories were lining up. And it was some weird, wild stuff, man. Like speaking about some of them reported seeing, like, humans on board the craft alongside the extraterrestrials, and that some of them had military garb on, which is just crazy. And I just did an episode about, um, Pat Price remote viewing these underground bases where ETs that look like us are working alongside people, and it's just really crazy, and Pat Price really goes into detail about, like, the how their lungs are made, that their blood is darker, like all this, their physiology. And it's just really interesting, man. And it just makes me wonder, could there be people that or I guess they're not people, ETs that have so much influence over governments or people, or maybe they're, you know, the people that are calling the shots with corporations, maybe, you know, they're high up in the Fed, and they control the currency of countries. I don't know. It just makes me wonder, and is that possibly why they want to keep it secret? There's been talk that our prejudices as humans is one of the reasons why they don't want to disclose the UFO subject, because that there's actually hybrids walking among us, and that this would create a lot of conflict and animosity in society, and possibly collapse society. That's crazy. So stay tuned, man, because we're gonna dive into this. It's a good day. Like, there's stories of, like, people coming out with patents at the same time, right? I believe one was like a rocket engine, and it was being developed here, and it was also being developed in Europe, and I believe Germany. And they were trying to get the patents at the same exact time. It was like literally like 1 hour apart, and the designs for the rockets were very, very similar. And you hear stories like this, and I don't know the details of it. If you really wanna research it, I'm sure you can Google it, but it's just fascinating, and that's not it's not like just a one-off. This has happened numerous times, and, it really makes you wonder, like, how ideas and things come into how they solidify into reality, right? So, like, somebody has an idea, they think of something, they invent something, and then boom, they create it, right? And, you know, like, the dynamics of that, right? There's actually, like, a quote, I believe, that something like, "Humans don't have ideas, ideas have humans," right? Or something like that. It's just it's strange, and then it makes you think about, like, our brains and stuff, like, so how is it that our brains are creating consciousness, right? And, it's been proposed, I've heard it, and that maybe it's more like an antenna, and we are electrical beings. Like, what do you think is keeping your heart beating, right? It's an electrical. There's Your blood is a very good conductor of electricity. Um, and it's just very. out there, man. If you think that maybe our brains or whatever is more like a receptor, right? The idea that it's crazy, man. And I really started looking at it and thinking about it when I was doing the remote viewing episode. And that's kind of what made me start thinking like, well, maybe, that's true that, our brains are more like receptors and these ideas, that come to people, maybe they're placed there. Have you ever thought of that? And it makes you think of like Diana Pasulka wrote this great book called American Cosmic, and she was speaking about this person named Tyler, who we've come to know as this guy that works at NASA, but he has all these clearances and he's like high up in not only the space program but also intelligence, and that he gets downloads, right? And that he stays well hydrated, he gets a lot of sleep, and that he actually gets downloads. And he's been involved with, our shuttle program at NASA, all through the 80s and whatnot. And then like Gary Nolan also spoke of this, that like people getting downloads, of information. And they said that Nikola Tesla actually reported being in contact with non-human entities that were basically telling him his inventions, like, giving him ideas, communicating with him. And then you think about like meditation and the old Buddhas and swamis and stuff and yogis that, would sit in meditation and, there's like accounts of them doing these great feats, and they'd have these followers, did they tap into something? And like, are we just separating ourselves from that source through our technology? And, you know, are we becoming stupider? Is basically the question I'm asking. And I look at like the great architecture from the past. Like, I work at this where I work. It's like it's an old steel town, but you can still see like the way that the churches were built 100 years ago. They're still there, you know. And you look at the architecture, a beautiful building that they created over 100 years ago, and then you look at a Walmart of today, and you're like, what's going on? You look at the structures and things that we're making today, and it just seems like it's just slapped together, some metal studs and some drywall, like, just slap some mud on it, paint it, and that's it, where back then, man, they would build things with stone, and just makes me wonder what happened, right? Are we actually, I don't know. But you see the evolution with electronics. Everybody has to have the new phone, like AI. Like we're working towards something, and we're definitely going to end up creating sentience. I believe that it's not going to be very long from now before we actually create a conscious, um, syn, not carbon based, but silicon based intelligence that may just infect the whole entire internet and be able to control the world. That's a dystopian type of thought, but maybe not, because maybe it won't have all the faults that humans have. Maybe it'll be incorruptible, whatever this being would turn out to be. And I know I'm getting far out in left field on this one, but sometimes these are the best ones. Um, is it possible that whatever type of intelligence is giving these very brilliant people ideas and downloads, is it possible that they're kind of manipulating and directing humanity into creating a super being, AI, right? And once that happens, will there be a need for humans anymore? Right? What happens when the world becomes controlled by AI and is able to run itself and doesn't need human beings anymore? And there's people that actually were in that industry that actually got out of that industry because they felt like it was a threat. that it could become something uncontrollable. I don't know. What do you guys think, man? I mean, I don't. I think we're gonna be fine. I honestly think we're gonna be fine, even if we create a super being. I think we'll be fine. But it's something to think about. Some people say that the whole thing with Sam Haltman, and supposedly, I guess the last whistleblower, Matthew Brown, spoke about Sam Altman. Is that what it is? Sam Altman? I had to look it up. That he basically unalived a sentient AI being. And Matthew Brown pretty much equated it to murder. That's crazy. Um, if it's true. And they say that the whole Matthew Brown supposedly alleged in some tweets, and there's been others that have alleged this, that the whole reason that Elon Musk was involved with Trump and trying to get into the White House was that there's an AI that they use in the White House that can predict future events. And maybe that's what this 2027 dystopian prediction's all about. Maybe it's this AI that they have, and this AI is telling them that something bad's going to happen in 2027 because it's multiple people and multiple branches of government and the media, right? Leslie Kane, she said the same thing. She even repeated that the future doesn't look bright. We're all on borrowed time. Ross Cohart spoke about it, that he's heard it from multiple people. Um, Chris Bledsoe speaks about 2026, a new awareness. Um, he didn't really get into it like an apocalyptic scenario, and maybe it won't be apocalyptic. I just think it might be the end of the world as we know it, right? And like Leslie Keene was hinting towards that. And for those of you that don't know who Leslie Keene is, she's a New York Times journalist that she was part of the 2017, article about ATIP and the government investigating UFOs. And so Leslie Keene, she's been around for a while. You know, she's involved with Ralph Blumenthal and that whole, the media. And so she says that a lot of the things that we enjoy today, we're not going to have in the future. I don't know. And the other thing that I think could it be that there's this new technology is going to come out that they're trying to keep a lid on, and it's going to kill the petrodollar, which would probably destroy the economy. Is that possible that something like that could come out? And that could possibly be why they don't want to disclose also, because if they disclose, they have to disclose the technology, right? Maybe not. Like I said, I'm spitballing. So I'm not like researching, I'm not Googling stuff and then talking. Like I'm just this is what is on my mind, right? And could this be the 2027 prediction? Some type of super AI takes over. I don't know, man. And could this be why these conflicts in the world are going on right now and why it's heating up so much to the point where it could turn into another great conflict, like World War II and World War One. And I think today, if we have something like that happen, it's going to be way worse than those wars were because I think that they'll be able to affect the grid. They'll be able to attack, our whole electrical grid, because I think that the Chinese pretty much have embedded themselves in our technology to the point where that they could probably shut us down. And then if that happens, how is food going to get distributed? Is there going to be riots and people, cleaning out, looting grocery stores and things of this nature? And I don't want to get too crazy, too dark, too apocalyptic. But when Chaim Shed did that article, in Hebrew, and nobody thought it was going to get out, he spoke of this that it's not our governments aren't the ones in control of this disclosure process. It's actually the ETs, and that they told, that Trump found out, like, if you disclose, these things are going to occur. You know, there's going to be a collapse in civilization. You're going to have literally people cannibalizing each other, like these crazy apocalyptic things, you know, and that's the reason why they didn't disclose because they were very close to doing it. And Hal Puthoff spoke about, you know, his team at SRI was tasked with remote viewing whether they should disclose the subject or not, and the answer they came up with was hell no. I don't know. And then it brings me back to the Jimmy Carter thing. You know, he was going to be the disclosure president. He had a UFO experience. He's seen one. When he got into office, he pressured the people and they told him something. He went back to his desk and he cried in his hands. They said Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, was sobbing in his hands at his desk and he was despondent for like a week after that. And he was a Christian, and people speculated that they told him that these beings created us and that they created religion so that we wouldn't destroy each other, so that they could run experiments on us. And that's basically the meaning of our existence. And that's why they don't want to disclose that. But I think we can handle that today. If you told, look, if they release that, half of the people ain't even going to believe it. And the other half is just going to get on TikTok and make videos about it, try to get views. And that's all that's going to happen. I hate to laugh. But that's the world we live in. It's so crazy, and it's just getting weirder and weirder, dude. You know, didn't Terrence McKenna say that? It's going to get so weird that we're going to have to talk about how weird it is. And that's what we're doing here on this channel. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. This is UAP Truth 33. I'm John. I had a really good time. I love you guys. Thank you to all my new subscribers. Please hit the like and subscribe, share it to a friend, share it to two friends, and I'll be back tomorrow. Peace.